When he opens his eyes again, all he sees is a white area, and he wonders where exactly he is, and wonders about the trainer and the monster. He then screams in pain, as it feels as if his entire body is being ripped apart. We see a giant eyeball staring at him, asking if it has really come to this. Saying that even individually, those things are too dangerous to be consumed by humans, yet both of them are in this one human. I'm unsure as to what it's talking about. But it continues, saying that they were hoping he wouldn't wake up. But now it's time for him to feed it. Chul sees a purple beehive, wondering if it is the purple glowstone of clarity. The being says that Chul's not meant to eat it, as it is what will eat him, and a new era is upon them. And it tells him to become stronger. But we can see that it's the turtle mountain as it waddles away. And it tells him to become stronger so he doesn't get devoured by time. When he opens his eyes, we see Hua asking if he's finally up. And he's confused to see her, so he calls out to her informally, and she reminds him that she is older than he is. But she'll let it go this once, since he's not doing well, asking how he's feeling. He starts to do a check on his body, saying that it's in a mess. But the amount of mana has increased a lot, and he wonders if he really ate the purple glowstone of clarity. He tells her that a few of his mana paths are broken, his intestines are twisted, and every bone is fractured. He has some muscle breakdown, but it's not all too bad. She says that sounds like ass. And Chul says that the purple glowstone of clarity was something that she was originally meant to take. It's an amazing miracle medicine that reinforces one's body, increases their mana, and helps them gain resistance against poison and curses. It's something that he was going to try to get anyways, but he does feel bad about it. He asks her what she's doing here, and then we hear Myeongjung call out to him. Chul sits up, looking at him, and he says that he brought him some potions, asking if he's feeling better, and that he should treat his mana first. Chul tells him just the potion's okay, and Myeongjung watches with concern as he drinks it. He asks Hua if she can excuse him for a minute, and he says that if he had died, he would have annihilated the trainer, as well as all the organizations involved with him, no matter how large or great the organizations were. Chul laughs, saying this is nice to hear. And Myeongjung says that what he did was something every martial artist should try to emulate, however he cannot think of it in a positive light as his brother. Chul says he didn't expect the Turtle Head Mountain to show up, and he's sorry, but he would have just waited had he known. Hua sighs, saying that it's good that he knows the difference between arrogance and confidence. Chul then says that he took care of the trainer, so he assumes that he has the rights to his information. Myeongjung says that he thought he would say that, and that the trainer was an almost 5th rank sorcerer who had once dipped his feet into Onmyoto. It seems like he had gotten expelled when he tried to get his hands on banned sorcery, and he must have activated the sorcery when the Turtle Head Mountain was sleeping, and he assumes that he's trying to get rid of Chul and make it look like it was a monster's doing. Chul asks if he's figured out who's behind this, and Myeongjung tells him that it'll be hard to think about at the moment. Chul realizes something, saying that the final target wasn't him, but rather it was Myeongjung. Myeongjung asks what makes him think that, and Chul says that he thinks their goal was to damage his reputation by saying that he was not only unable to detect invaders, but also slow to react to the situation. Myeongjung sighs, saying that he's probably right, and wonders what he should do. Chul asks if he's really alright, and Myeongjung says he is, while patting his head. He says that it'll hurt his image a bit, but it won't make a huge difference, and that he can't leave his position empty for long, so he better go back to work. Chul grabs onto his hand, asking if they can do something that he just thought of. Let's say that he predicted the trainer would invade, and gave him orders ahead of time, and he'll testify accordingly. And then it'll make it seem like he prepared for something even the intelligence branch couldn't. Myeongjung says that it'd be better if he just told the truth, but Chul says that if he does, then the people will be more wary of him and see him as competition. Myeongjung says he understands, and that it'll be a benefit to both of them, asking him what it is that he wants. Chul says that he just wants entry to the library, and that 3 days should be more than enough. Myeongjung calls him arrogant, but in a jokingly way, and laughs, thanking him. Chul says there's no need to thank him, as they're both benefiting from this. Myeongjung says that he's sure he would have thought of ways to overcome the situation, even without him, asking if that's right. He then gets a phone call, saying that this is probably the Azure Sword Squad, and that he should get going. He then throws something towards Chul, which is none other than Boundless, and he tells him that he'll keep it a secret. As Chul looks down at it, he says that his brother sure is clever. A bit later, Hua returns, saying that the conversation must have went well. He says it did, and she asks which test he's going to go for, as they all should be open. He says he wants to know about her first, and she says that she was the one who brought it up. He says that he'll tell her, only if she tells him, and she says of course she's choosing the most difficult one, and asks about him, and he tells her that he's going to do the Hall of Fighting. Which surprises her because she doesn't recognize it, saying surely it isn't the one on the outskirts, and he tells her that's exactly the one it is. She looks a bit annoyed, saying that she's disappointed, and she thought he was better than that, and there's no point in even talking to him if he's going to actually go through this. She thought he was better than her. But it seems like that wasn't the case. Chul explains that in reality, there's a prejudice that the difficulty of the test depends on the location of the hall, and she must be thinking that he's taking the easy route, but he doesn't really care. A bit later, of him continuously walking, he says that he can't remember too well, but he feels like it was somewhere around here, and that there was a cave hidden nearby for the second assignment of the naming ceremony, which is called the Hall of Fighting. He lights up a torch, saying that it may look like a regular wall at first, but it's not ordinary. He draws his blade, he attacks it, revealing a door behind it, and he smiles, saying that this is it, and he's actually found it. Chul starts to cut his hand slightly, but he's not emo enough to play guitar on his wrist yet, and he starts to imbue it with his mana. He then throws it on the door, causing it to open, revealing an altar inside with a sword inside of it. Chul starts to slowly walk into it, making his way to the altar. Once he is there, he says as a descendant of the Lee clan, he accepts the challenge of the forefather, and begs to heed his request. There is only one challenge in the Hall of Fighting, and it is to win in a battle against oneself. He has an unlimited number of tries, even if he chooses to give up, he can't leave until he succeeds. As we see him standing before an image of himself, he starts to unsheath his blade, saying that it's time to begin. As he takes his first step forward, we see his head get cut. Before he can realize what's going on, his head starts to fall off of his body, and his blood starts to fly out. As he just lost, he then jolts awake, grabbing onto his throat, saying that his head was cut off just now, and he sees that it's just an illusion, because he can't die within the Hall of Fighting to himself, but it felt so damn realistic. Most ordinary people would go insane if they experienced this, but that's not the problem here, and he wonders if that means that's what he is capable of doing, as the Hall of Fighting is able to bring out 100% of his current potential, but it means the illusion will be able to take advantage of skills that he can't even use yet, and if that's the case, he should have been able to block that strike, and he decides to try it one more time. However, that attempt didn't go any better, nor did his third attempt as he got stabbed in the stomach. His fifth attempt, he was finally able to deflect the attack, but got choked out in the end. The 10th attempt also ended with his head being cut off, and this went on and on and on and on for I don't know how many attempts, but he's well past the 23rd now as he is actually brawling now with the other version of himself. He manages to distance himself, and he says that in his 75th attempt, or maybe this is already his 80th, but he thinks that he's finally gotten it, and he's come to learn everything about himself. His greatest strengths are his flexibility, and his ability to overcome irregularities, and the freedom to break through expectations. Then he changes Boundless from a sword to a spear. He says that this is it, because the clone mirrors him. He charges forward with an overhead attack, which gets blocked. He then gets pushed back as they both swap to swords again, and he says that the more he fights his counterpart, the more similar they are becoming with one another, as they are mirroring each other's abilities one to one. The clone instantly distances himself, changing back to a sword for the second time, and starts to run in. He stabs Chul straight in the stomach, but Chul calls him an idiot, saying that he let his guard down on purpose. As he grabs onto his arm, he swings down using the split demon, cutting the clone straight down the middle. As the clone starts to fade out, it smiles, and there's even a black aura that gets released. Chul says that passing the Hall of Fighting allows him to unlock a hidden ability of the Lee clan. The ability he got in his last life was reinforced, the most common one, and he wonders what he'll get this time from finishing this challenge, which was incomparably harder to the rest. When he opens his eyes, he looks up to see a golden aura, and he starts to recognize what the ability is. We don't get to hear what it is yet. But outside of the door, we see a lot of people waiting for him, and Tai Hong even begins to sigh, saying that he thought that Chul would be out by now, but he doesn't have any more incidents he'll cause in the naming ceremony. Someone says there's been a change in the mana density, and Tai Hong looks surprised as the door finally begins to open. Chul starts his exit. He starts to wobble, and falls forward. As Tai Hong dashes forward, he grabs onto him, asking if he's okay, telling him to wake up. But Chul only says, please. Tai Hong asks what he wants, and of course, all Chul wants is water and food, and starts groaning. Tai Hong wonders if that was really it, and then he starts to get annoyed, saying that he can't believe he pulled this kind of shit. At least he genuinely cares for him. Sometime later, back at Chul's house, we hear Gawa screaming his name hella loudly, and she asks if he knows how worried she was as he challenged the ancient hall of fighting the forefather created. Chul tells her that he's still covered in dirt, and he's been out for the last month, so he kind of stinks too. She says that even though she was planning to scold him when he returned, she's just glad that he's actually back, and he thanks her. She says that she's going to run the bath for him, and she'll also bring out the food as soon as he's done. He then asks where Gyanga is, and she says that she was actually meaning to bring that up. He asks why she's acting strange. It then jumps to Gyanga laughing and smiling that he's back. We see that she's locked up, and Chul asks what happened to her. She doesn't answer, but says that it's good to see that he's fine, and then asks how he managed to increase his total mana so much, as his body shouldn't have been able to handle it. She tells him to sit down so they can talk, but in a stern voice he calls out to her, and she laughs, saying it's fine. Chul says he didn't think she'd go this far for him, and he explains the reason why she's here, and it's because she caused a scene in front of the elder and his eldest brother. She was yelling, saying that it's always their fault that Chul's in situations like this. She says that whenever she thinks about those people causing trouble for him, she just couldn't hold back her anger, and she just got angry at the thought that she wouldn't be able to see him again. It felt like something was choking her when she thought about it. Chul says to be honest, he still doesn't completely trust her, but he has noticed that he started treating her as a part of his real family, and he sighs, saying that he should, and he tells her to wait, as he'll go get her out soon. She tells him not to push himself, and he says that he won't, and that she should just wait, as he'll be back to see her again shortly. It then jumps to some time later, as there's an airplane about to land on a runway, and outside is Chul with the rest of the family. As their father steps out of the plane, they all welcome him, and he says that they must have waited a long time. Huiyan says not at all, and she's gone ahead and prepared a hot bath for him, and a meal for him to enjoy. He says he's got it, and we see both Chul and Hua there too. Chul says that he thought he'd grown pretty strong after the whole naming ceremony incident, yet he still can't tell how big the difference between he and his father is. They make eye contact, then his father turns away. Taishan says that he's told them he doesn't need someone who refuses to fight for the family. However, it seems that there's only one child of his who has the desire to actually beat him. Chul's surprised, but all the other kids are just wondering who he's talking about. Chul says that he thought he'd hid his emotions pretty well, but he still managed to read his mind, and he sighs. It then jumps to some time later, as we are now at the banquet hall. Chul is standing there awkwardly in the corner, saying that maybe it's because it's rare for the Lee clan, but this banquet is pretty big for the naming ceremony. There's someone here who is famous for being the youngest leader of a magic tower, as well as an Onmyoto chief, which is what that trainer guy practiced. Then someone approaches him, which is none other than Butler Choi, who says that the patriarch is looking for him. Chul asks where he's at, and Butler Choi says he'll lead the way. Chul wonders why he's being asked for personally, saying that he really hopes it's nothing too serious. Outside, we see his father waiting, as Chul bows after greeting him. He then notices that Myeongjung is with him too. As they both look at him, Chul realizes what this is about. Taishan says that he's sure he's aware of why they called him here. They're talking about the naming ceremony, and according to Myeongjung, he was ordered to capture an outsider. This is something that he assumes Chul is behind. Chul can't believe that he already knew it, and says that it's correct. That's why he offered a deal to his older brother, the right to enter the library in exchange for preventing any potential problems. Taishan says that considering his involvement in the incident, he will forgive him for the false reports. However, there will not be a next time. Chul says he understands. But Taishan doesn't stop there, as he tells Myeongjung to expect an appropriate punishment in the near future. Since the banquet is his to handle, he should return to the hall and take care of it. Myeongjung says that he will, and he smiles after walking past Chul, but Chul just hopes that he'll be okay. Taishan says that excluding his false report, the resolution of this incident was all his accomplishment, and he's sure he will receive the promised reward he was talking about with Myeongjung. Lastly, for finding out about the Hall of Fighting, he wants to give him a reward as well. Chul's surprised, but says if that's the case, and we don't get to see what it is yet. Then we see Taishan giving a speech, thanking everybody for coming all this way to attend the event. The banquet was held to give their blessings to 2 children, and they shall now proceed with the naming ceremony. He tells Hwa to step forward, saying that as she has been selected by the Holy Sword, he is sure she will always fight for the light of others, and in hopes of helping her continue on this path of light, she is finally given the name of Shohyun. She looks super excited and thanks him, and Taishan then says it's Chul's turn and tells him to step forward. Chul says it's a completely different reaction from the steel selection ritual, but that makes no difference. Taishan says that while he is strong and smart, he is also flexible but unyielding to others, the same way a master blacksmith forges blades out of blocks of steel. He has trained himself to reach his potential. As such, there is no better way to describe him than this. He snaps his fingers, and he is finally given the name of Chul. In the past, he gave him the name Chul so that he lived life as strong as steel. However, the meaning behind his name has changed, and it won't stop until he reaches the top of the clan. He is glad that he has his actual name back and thanks his father. It then jumps to the isolation ward of the judicial department. Byung-ah is still sitting inside of it, going absolutely crazy. She says that she wants to leave, as it's so cramped in here, and she hasn't seen him since he received his name. The guards are just begging for mercy because all she's done is screech. Then they get a phone call. As she's screaming that she wants to leave, they tell her that she actually can, and she looks confused about it. They tell her that while she will be contacted regarding her punishment later, she is free to go at the moment. She exits super excitedly, even kicking down the door, and as she's running away, we hear Chul tell her to wait one moment. She turns to see him, and again she's still calling him baby. She asks if he really got her out, and he says of course he did. She asks how, and then he hands her a paper. She starts reading it, asking what it is, and he says that she is now indebted to him. She's reading it, and it says that she is now appointed as an elder and will work as the master of Chul. She's surprised by this, and Chul tells her to please take good care of him. A bit later, we see Chul dressing up, and Gawa asks if it starts today. He says yes, and today will be the start, and she says that she can't believe he's already 13, and he says that he'll see her soon, as we've had another time skip now. Chul says it's finally time for him to start his life as a pupil. A lot of the other students are asking if that's the 9th child, and they say they heard rumors about his steel selection ritual and naming ceremony, but they all just think that he's a bastard child who got lucky. Chul's just tired of hearing the word bastard thrown around all the time. And then we even spot Shohyun, and people say they knew the children of the main family are different from the start. He says their reactions to her are completely different compared to his. As she starts walking awkwardly, she freezes and notices Chul, and he tells her it's been a while. She says that she hopes he's not too bothered by what happened at the naming ceremony, and he asks what she means. She said the fact that she said she was disappointed. He starts to recall it, and he says that it's no big deal, and not to worry about it. She asks if he's sure while getting excited, saying that it's a relief as she thought he was petty. He asks what she means by that, and she completely changes the conversation, saying that she heard their aunt is his master and that she's a member of the library now. Before they can finish talking, a man yells, telling them to pay attention, as they'll now be appointing them to their classes. All named pupils are to gather in front of them, making sure to maintain their current formations. The students start to get a little nervous, hoping they don't get assigned to a bad class. But Chul understands why they're acting like this. Since cadets are trained for 3 years, class allocation is important. Each level is assigned into 5 groups, with more talented pupils being assigned to a higher class. Shohyun gets assigned to class 1, and he says as expected. Now it's Chul's turn, and they hand him his paper without telling him which class he belongs to. Chul starts reading it, and he says he could tell the guy looked disappointed when he handed it to him, but he knew this would happen at some point, but he never would have thought they would have set him up from the start, as he was given class 5, which is the garbage dump. Which is crazy, considering how well he did in the steel selector interval and the naming ceremony. Might just be lazy writing, but he explains that members of the main family are assigned to their classes based on the results of the naming ceremony, and the elders and Huayan must be behind this. Although people consider this a setback, it could be for the better, as it's less trouble for him. One of the people approaches him, saying that class 5 is this way and that he will guide Chul. Chul says okay, and as they start walking away, he notices Shohyun staring at him, and he wonders what's with her expression, as she is pissed about the fact that he's in class 5. And he says it looks like she'll get involved if he doesn't do something about it. He waves her off, telling her that he's fine, and then turns back around, saying that it's not that big of a deal. While he's standing behind the other class 5 students, they start to straight doom the mood, saying they were just gonna fail, and they don't even know what to tell their parents. Chul can't believe that such children of the Lee clan have bad attitudes. One of them calls out to him, saying that he's the youngest of the main family, asking if they're right. He says that he is, and the kid says that he's always wanted to introduce himself, and he does so, saying that his name is Kim Han, and he's the son of a small blacksmithing family that works with the Lee clan, and that it's an honor to be in the same class as Chul. Chul doesn't recall ever hearing his name from the past, and asks why he's excited to be with him. He says that's because he's the center of attention, and he's always wanted to meet him because of that. Chul says it doesn't seem like he's lying, and sighs, asking what he thinks about being assigned to class 5. Han says that he guesses they determine that his current skills are suited for it, but even so, there's no way of telling what might happen to him in the future. Chul looks over and smiles, telling him that he passes, and Han asks what he means. And then it jumps to a group of students greeting them, and one of them is named Choi In-ha, and they're the oldest so far, being 15. The other students look confused, and their teacher claps, saying that he believes introductions are in order. He introduces himself as Jong-ho, class 5's instructor, and as they have new members today, they'll skip the lecture and start with a short overview. Chul says that he still seems full of determination and enthusiasm, and in his past life, he was even instructed privately because he was having trouble keeping up. Jong-ho says that's it for the overview, telling In-ha to take charge and teach the material to the new kids. In-ha says okay, then greets everyone and introduces himself. He says he's embarrassed to say it, but he's been held back 2 times, so this is his second year as the class leader, which explains the age gap. He says they must be tired from all the standing, and they should feel free to sit down, as they're going to elect the class leader this time around. All of them may be cadets here, but they are put into missions quite often, so the class leader effectively takes the role of squad captain. Aside from the instructors who educate them and help them train, the leaders of each class are given full authority. One of the students asks how they pick the class leader, and In-ha says that he should have explained that first. He doesn't know how the other classes do it, but they always decide with light duels among themselves and vote on who the leader should be after, and then it's time for them to begin the duels. He says it's to test each other's strengths, so the use of mana is forbidden. Before he can finish his last sentence, Chul asks if he's kidding. In-ha asks if he's dissatisfied with something he said. Chul says that he's dissatisfied with everything he said and everything he's doing. He tells him to get a grip, as this is the Lee clan. If they want a roleplay school, they shouldn't have come here and gone to a normal school in the safe zone instead. In-ha says he's being too radical, and he just meant it as a more peaceful way to work this out. Chul says that he guesses he won't understand just words, and he stabs his wooden practice sword into the ground, telling them to all come up one by one, as he'll take on everybody here. After a bit, we see Chul panting, as he actually did exactly that, taking care of all the students except In-ha so far, who just sits there, speechless. Chul calls his name, which startles him, and he tells him to call up the next cadet. In-ha can't help but feel amazed, but tells him that he's the only one left, and Chul asks if that's really the case, telling him to hurry up and walk up already. As they trade blows with one another, In-ha wonders why he's going so far, as this is a duel of no reward, it's just a cadet squad, and what they're doing is a sparring match. In-ha says deep down he knows why this is being done, and he used to be as fierce as him and he wanted to win as badly before. He thought he had matured by accepting reality, but it seems as if he was just coping, as he still does truly want to win. But instead, Chul says this is over, as he swings forward, knocking In-ha's sword out of his hands. In-ha looks surprised, and then starts screaming while holding onto his wrist. Chul sighs, saying that someone should take him to the nurse, but In-ha tells him he's not done yet. He then picks up the sword with his other hand and swings down, telling Chul that it's not over. Turns out his hand is broken, and Chul says that he sure is determined and the glint in his eyes is different. But of course, the fight is already over, as Chul knocks his sword backward, he tightens the grip using both hands, and hits him straight in the stomach. In-ha starts to spit up and then falls to the floor, unconscious, as he tells the other students to go ahead and take In-ha to the nurses. He says that he lives every second as if it was an hour, and every hour as if it was a year. And everybody knows how easy life is once you start compromising. I have no idea what the hell that means. But he tells them if they don't put their life on the line at every moment, they'll end up losing everything. In order to protect himself and everything around him, Chul will continue to fight as long as he can breathe. He asks if any of them have lived their lives in that way, as this is what fighting truly is. Jong-ho tells him that he went too far, and 4 kids have broken bones, and 3 have damaged organs. As Chul is sitting there gassed out, he says if they want to survive in the Lee clan, they need to be able to bear through injuries like those. Jongho says that those children come from struggling homes, and then Chul asks if he really needs to explain it to him when even the other cadets understood. People like him are rare in the clan, and he is a good man. But those children are still part of the clan as well, and if they walk the wrong path, he should redirect them even if it means playing the villain to them, and that he has to do his job right. Jongho clenches his fist, but doesn't say anything back. The next day, as Chul enters his class, he says that he is still so sore, and he went over the top yesterday for sure, and he can already tell some of the kids are showing disdain or anger towards him. But not one of them are avoiding his gaze, and they would really be hopeless if they were as docile as yesterday, which is a relief. As he's walking by, he hears them talking shit to him, and then we hear Han greeting him. Chul says he's early, and Han says that he apologizes for showing off a sorry side to him yesterday. Chul says that they're still cadets, so it's natural to be weak. Han laughs it off, and says that he just has one question. Chul tells him to go for it, and Han asks what he should do to become as strong as he is. Chul says that he's not at a level where he's good enough to teach the others yet, but he has good eyes, or maybe it's his instincts. Han asks what he means, so Chul explains that he dodged his fake moves 3 times in a row yesterday, and he should try to use that to his advantage, as he thinks he's more of a technique guy than a strength guy. If he puts everything into perfecting what he already has, then he'll one day find that he has improved. Han thanks him, and then we hear Inha saying hello. Chul turns to see his arm in a cast, saying that he's in such a mess, asking if he could even train in that state. Inha asks if he would have understood if he skipped training in the first place, as he would have just told him he overreacted, and that he's here because he doesn't want to be lectured. Chul smirks, saying that Han has changed. Jongho then tells everybody to listen up. That's 4 are absent because they're injured, and 5 more absent for unknown reasons, and that means there's only 11 of them. He can tell that everybody looks tired, and the atmosphere is pretty down too. They'd been so relaxed yesterday, but now they're all tense just because of Chul. He says they were originally supposed to use this day to evaluate their basic capabilities, but seeing their conditions, he clenches his fist and says never mind, as they should go ahead and proceed with the evaluations as is. All the kids are gassed out, and he says that's it for the test, and the leader will be the one in charge of training. Chul says that it took 10 hours just for the evaluation, and he's also tired, but he can't rest. All the other students are talking about how Jongho is a bit different today, and he would usually let them all rest. They then hear Chul calling out to them all, and he says that he doesn't assume he needs to introduce himself, and that he is the class's leader. He's sure they all heard from Inha, but the class leader holds all the authority unless the instructor says otherwise. His training will be harsh, and only those who are willing to keep up can come with him. He doesn't intend on forcing those who don't have the will, and one of the students calls him an arrogant bastard, and we are introduced to Kim Bazon. Chul tells them all that if they don't like him, they can request a duel with him anytime, and he'll hand over the class leader position if any of them can even get one hit on him, and he wants to go ahead and begin, having them fight the person next to them. Chul says that 6 people managed to last until the end, but the rest gave up midway through. He tells them all that's enough for today, and they are excused, and well done. All the students are just saying they can't believe they have to work like dogs because of that bastard, and they don't even like him to begin with. As they keep yapping, Han tells them to shut up, as he's frustrated with himself, and that Chul was definitely exhausted too, yet they still couldn't get a single hit in. They then ask Inha what he thinks, as they say they were good last year, and he says that maybe this is why he flunked. They ask what he means, and he says that if he doesn't change now, he thinks he's going to end up a loser, and he wants to try with everything he has, even if his arms and legs give out. He goes to tell them they're all aware of what the illegitimate child is trying to do, but changes it to call him young master instead. He says that they should think about it, and he's going to try his best, as this is his last opportunity, so they should get their shit together and stop playing dumb. Sometime later, we hear Gyeonga telling Chul to transform it now, as we see him hooked up to a machine, as he's concentrating his mana in his hand. Gyeonga tells him to stop, saying not to do any more, and that she can't figure it out. The form continuously breaks down every time he's trying to create aura, and she didn't expect this kind of problem after he reached 3 stars, and she wishes they had some files on how people used mana in the past. Chul looks down at Boundless, saying that maybe if it's Boundless's memories, he could figure it out, but he can't look at the next memories yet, and he did have this unexpected harvest at the library, but it was enveloped in an aura, that which was the color of ink, and the other monsters feared it. We get a bit of a lore expo. He says even the bravest generals of the nation failed to defeat it. Only when heroes came together were they able to seal the monster in Thousand Demons Mountain in the north, and the king awarded the heroes with thieves. The heroes were touched by the king's generosity and created a sword, which is how the Boundless came to be to begin with, and getting information on it was really helpful. She then says that he's still making steps forward on his own, saying that sure is amazing, and that she's sure he'll be able to overcome the problem soon, as he basically completed both the amplification technique and the transformation technique after all. He thanks her, and then asks what it means to attain 3 stars anyways. She says that he'll be able to use aura skills and enhanced energy, although he has a long way until he can do either of those properly. Then she asks how the training is in class as he looks tired. He sighs, saying that it's whatever, and she asks if he needs her help. He asks how, and she laughs, saying that he'll see, he just has to give her some trust. A bit later we see him realizing what she meant, as he had a bad feeling when she asked him to trust her. As Jongho tells everybody that today they're going to have a special lesson on mana arts, he introduces Gyeonga as an elder and a researcher of their clan. He tells everybody to give her a round of applause, and she says that's a little embarrassing, but she says that she doesn't like dragging things out, so she's going to get started immediately. Chul says she sure has gotten better at teaching, and a bit later she says that's it for the boring part, now it's time for the fun part, and she'll teach them the mana improvement method that she researched. Jongho asks if that wasn't it for the lesson. She says of course not, as this is just the beginning, and everybody should sit upright, and she's only going to show it to them once. We see Chul asking her what she's doing. She says that kids of the direct lineage are supported in all kinds of ways once class starts, so she thought she'd do something similar. He thanks her, and she says this is good, and theoretically this should double his mana force, asking if that's great. He says of course it is, and Jongho tells everybody that they'll use the mana technique she showed them and have some duels, and to choose their partners. Inha steps forward, asking for Chul to be his partner, and he's going to warn him that he's not going to take it easy. Chul says that's what he wanted from the start, and he can have the first move. As they start trading blow for blow, Gyeonga says that he's so merciless, and she feels like she's seeing herself in him. She starts to overhear the students saying how much they dislike Chul, and he might have been discriminated against a little because he's an illegitimate son, but is entirely different from them. Physically, he's better, and if his ability has been unlocked, that means he has a major head start. They start talking about how hard they've worked, yet he doesn't know any of that. Gyeonga then calls out to him, and they're surprised that she hasn't left yet. She then asks if they're referring to her child, and corrects herself, saying her disciple. They start to get scared of her expression, and say that they're sorry for exaggerating. She asks what in the world they know for them to say stuff like that about him, and they apologize, but Bazong says that they're not the only ones who don't know anything, and Chul's the same. They've also worked very hard, but he would also insult them as if what they've done amounts to nothing, and that surely it's natural that they'd be different since they grew up in different environments. Gyeonga says that just means they don't really know, and Bazong asks what she means. Gyeonga says that it's probably better that they didn't, and if they found out just how different his life has been from theirs, they'd think of their lives as basically just playing. Bazong starts to get pissed, wondering why they keep treating their efforts like they were nothing, and says that he'll see how good he is himself. Chul says today's training will end here, and Bazong glances over at him, seeing him tired, saying that he's the same as everybody else. He might say that he's different from them, but this is what they're all born with. The other students double-check with Bazong that he's going to secretly follow Chul. They don't know if it's alright for them just to walk around the manor estate as they please. Bazong says it's fine since they're cadets, and it's not like they're going anywhere dangerous, and he also doesn't live with a legitimate family, and they have no intentions just to let him walk all over them. And they'll see how he actually lives his life today. Later that night, Bazong asks how many hours it's been since he entered the research lab, as it's already 9. The kids start getting sleepy, saying that they low-key just want to go home, and they don't even know what he's doing in there. Bazong says they gave up way too easily, but they leave anyways, and finally, Chul exits. Chul sighs, saying that he needs to hang in there. Bazong says it's about time he should get going home, but instead, he watches Chul head to the training hall, which is meant to be exclusive to the main clan, so he shouldn't be able to go in there, but as soon as he does, all they hear is screaming, which surprises them. Turns out he's not alone. My bad. They start asking what those sounds were, saying they might be from training. And they realize that Chul does seem to be amazing, and they should stop following him, because it seems like they were in the wrong, and they should work just as hard as he is. Bazong says that he doesn't skip out on training during his personal time either, so there's no difference between them. The other students don't know why he's coping this hard about it, but Bazong is just determined to figure out what the difference between them is, and then he'll prove that there's not any that he is aware of. As Chul exits, Bazong keeps a close eye and watches as he finally goes to his house. We hear a guy yelling behind Bazong, asking who's there. He says that he sees Bazong as a cadet, and he says that while Chul does walk around at this hour every day, he had no idea that he had a cadet with him. Bazong wonders if he really means every day, and says they had something to do together this time. The guard says that would usually be against the rules, and he should go back quickly. Bazong says okay, and he glances over at Chul's house, seeing that his lights are still on even though it's already 2. He turns, saying that he'll be going back then as he walks away, feeling conflicting emotions. A bit later at their classroom 3 hours later, Bazong says that he went back home too late. And he sits there, surprised, only to see Chul in front of him, saying that he looks tired. He's not sure if it's okay for a child like Chul to only get 3 to 4 hours of sleep. He wonders if he really is doing the best he can with his time, as any time he goes home, he's either resting, watching TV, or playing games. While he does train frequently during his personal time, he gets enough sleep, rest, and entertainment. Chul asks him what's the matter with him, and Bazong just questions if he's tired or not. Chul says that he guesses he's among the people who secretly followed him. Bazong says that's right, and he has received support from the main clan, and had a head start compared to them. Chul can tell what he's getting at, but tells him that he's lived like this ever since he was young, and that he needed to get a little more sleep before he became a cadet though. It's natural that he feels tired since he only sleeps for a few hours. Bazong asks why he's training to this extent, and Chul says surely he already knows the answer to that. Bazong thinks about it and realizes how dumb and childish he's been until now. It jumps to Taishan standing in the middle of his training area as Butler Choi calls out for him. He says that the official document regarding his request is ready. Taishan tells him to hand it over, and after skimming it, he says this is not good enough. Butler Choi tells him that these are 7th and 8th rank dungeons, which are dangerous for the cadets. Taishan says that when it comes to weapons or rations, they just need to accumulate them, and that's not the case with humans, and they must create people who are able to survive. Butler Choi says that he'll do as per his instructions, but he has one more thing to report. Taishan starts thinking about him fondly, saying that his eyes have always looked extraordinary ever since he was young, and he has the eyes of those who have had things taken from them, and they are the eyes of someone who's lived with their head lowered his entire life. But that changing people and leading them are two completely different matters, and that he wants to change the test a little bit, as Sho Hyun is also in that batch, so he wants to increase the standard of the cadets. Butler Choi says okay, and Taishan says it's time to see if he really has the potential to be a leader or not. Jongho then enters the classroom, and he hears a lot of the kids saying that it's not over yet, but is just surprised to see that all of the cadets are training so early in the morning even though it's the weekend. And he didn't have to come here to get them to train at all. One of the students say that they are glad he's here, and he says that he's surprised to see them all working so hard, and that they should get all of the absent cadets here as he has something to announce. He says he understands that this is a little rushed, but the first evaluation has been brought forward, so a week break will be given in advance, and consider this as their last break and rest as much as they can beforehand. He goes to tell them one last thing, but he says there's no need for him to remind them to at least do their basics during their break because they're all determined. He says he trusts that they'll do what's needed, and dismisses them saying they've done great so far. Chul says this break came out of nowhere, and the first evaluation shouldn't be this fast, and he wonders if everything is alright. He turns asking the other students if they're not leaving yet. Han says that they're waiting for him. And Inha asks what he's going to do during his break. He says the break is their personal time, wondering why they would ask about it. They're just confused, and he says that they should just rest when it's time to rest, and he doesn't have any plans for the break. They're all surprised by this, and they can't believe he's the one saying it. Because there's no training given, they thought that he'd make them go through hell and ask for joint training. Saying surely they didn't think they'd get to rest. Chul just wonders what kind of person these kids think he is. Asking if they really want to spend their entire days here during the break, and they should rest when it's time to do so, as that's important. He already knows that they won't just rest even if he tells them that anyways, and they can decide what they want to do as he'll see them all after the break. They start cheering him on for whatever reason. I literally have no idea why. And then it takes us to Gyeongha's research lab. She says that she heard he got a break, and she can't believe he's here to torture her instead of resting, as she has a mountain of research to conduct. He says that he knows that she was just looking at weird things on her phone and sighs. She asks what he means by weird, and starts talking about some kind of drama. He asks what in the hell she was watching, but changes the conversation asking if the first evaluation was moved up because of his father's orders. He says that it was an official document given by the main clan. Chul says this means this evaluation will be way harder than they think, and he needs his mana arts that have hit a wall to grow, and in order to do so, he must obtain the next memories of Boundless. The fact there are memories he can't see yet shows that he's still lacking something. He was wondering if changing a little would allow him to read the next memory, but that was not the case, and he can only keep trying to think of other solutions. He then accidentally bumps into a stack of papers causing them to fall over, and she asks what he's doing, saying that he needs to be more careful, but he tells her that it's her fault for not being tidy. As he starts picking up some of the papers, he notices one of them, and it says the main difference between ancient and modern martial art techniques would be the intentions behind them. They believe that the techniques used by humanity back then were tailored for fighting monsters. Chul says this would also be the same for the split demon, as well, as it is a pretty excessive technique. He then stands up after having a realization, and he says that he's got it, and he'll explain more later on, but he needs to go to the training hall immediately, as he runs off, leaving even more papers flying through the air. As soon as he gets there, he immediately pulls out the Boundless, saying that he needs to make up an opponent. He closes his eyes, saying that it needs to be one that's bigger than him, a beast with a different form from a human. It needs to be a huge monster, and it needs to focus on a technique that maintains efficiency and strength, but doesn't bother with avoiding or defending at all. He doesn't really care how it looks, it just needs to be destructive. That is part of the true intention behind the split demon, as he dashes forward, shattering the ground beneath him. He says the goal in the end was to cut down monsters, and he can't believe that he didn't put 2 and 2 together from the start. As he uses the split demon, I believe he's in the world of the sword right now, but he cuts the apocalypse ranked monster straight in half, and sighs after going back to reality. The training area starts to fill with dust, and he says that it actually worked, and he wonders what he's going to see this time around, as he starts to go back into the world of the sword. He looks around, recognizing it as the training hall, and that's the same as when he first obtained Boundless. He wonders why the time period is only different when he sees Boundless memories. He hears something and glances over, saying that this is the same dude he saw last time in the memories as well, and the dude is really fast. But then he's surprised by something and wonders what that is, as every time the weapon changes, the aura changes around it too. It's not like his aura is changing, rather it's more like Boundless aura is changing in itself. He then hears someone saying that he changed how he did it again, which startles Chul, but the man says that he should stop peeking at other people's trainings. The other guy who walked up on him says that he started after he got that, asking if he's named the technique. He says no, as it wasn't great enough to be called a technique to begin with. The other dude says he has a suggestion, asking how about calling it the 1,000 forms. The dude says it's not bad. And Chul hides himself behind the pillar again, as the dude asks if he brought someone else along. He says that he didn't. And immediately, the guy swings his sword as he and the other dude start clashing blades. He says that he was intending to fight him from the start, so there's no point in bringing anyone else. Chul's caught off guard by this, but recognizes something, as based on their hair and eye colors, the main descendant of the Lee clan.
If you came this far, please like, comment, and subscribe the channel for watching more video.